Good morning, everyone. We have a break, 2 weeks for a break for Pesach, but we're back with Tanya live, and we'll start off as usual by giving tzedakah. Gedelet tzedakah shemakareves v'sakaula. Put in the coin. Everything. We're also going to start with Tehillim. If you want to put down anyone that you would like us to say Tehillim for, please put it down in the comments. And one second. Okay. We're going to also say Tehillim for Yaakov ben Sivya and Sarah Bas Sipora Malka, are both having open heart surgery. A little girl today, so she's going through right now. Let all our prayers and our learning be in the merit of a speedy recovery. And Yaakov ben Sivya, Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow should have good news. Good morning, Rosalie. Good morning, Francesca. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Helga. Devar Bas Rezla, Rachel Bas Vega. Good morning, Nikki. Good morning, Becky. Good morning, Bernice. Good to see everybody here, and we'll get started. Good morning, Chaimushka. Good morning, Rosalie. Okay, please put down anyone's names. Bernice, good morning, Bernice. Okay, we're ready to get started. Good morning, Sophie. Okay, we are, and good morning, Shirley. Wow, I feel like I haven't seen you guys for a long time, and it's wonderful to be back to connect with Tanya. So there was a story that was going around on Facebook. I don't know how you have seen it. And has anybody seen what went viral with Sholom Bear's story? Anybody saw it? But before we get to it, we're going to say chapter Chaf. So if you have a siddur, please take it out. Otherwise, you could just say Amen after I finish. Yisagef Hashem Elahei Yaakov, Yishrach Ezrecha Mikodesh, Mitzvah Yisadeka, Yiskar Kol Mechasecha V'Lascha Yidash Nesela. Yitin Lecha Chavecha V'Chol Atzescha Yimale, Rana B'Shusecha V'Shem Eloheinu Nidgol. Yimalei Adonai Kol Meshalasecha. Ata Yidati Ki Yoshei Adonai Meshicho, Yanei Mishmei Kodsha B'Bruas Yesha Yamino. Say this with me. Ele V'Recha Ve'ele B'Susim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adonai, Eloheinu Naskir. Himakar V'Nafal V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisadad. And now this part you should know by heart. Adonai, Hoshea, Hamelech, Yanenu, B'Yom Karenu. We should only hear good news from each other. So, first of all, because we're live and I don't see you here in Shul, how many of you had a beautiful, magnificent, meaningful Pesach? Please put it in the chat or give me a thumbs up or some hearts. I know what mood we're in. We just finished Pesach. We are now in Sfiras HaOmer. What did you bring over there? What's that? Okay. And we are now starting to count the Omer. It's a very, very significant time for the Jewish people. Okay, good. I see everyone had a really nice Pesach. Okay, lots of good. Oh, Shirley said it was wonderful. Arlene, excellent. Lauren, good morning. Okay. And good morning, Kim.
Good morning, everyone.
So we have some great muffins here. You don't know what you're missing. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll have to have one after I'm done. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Pamela. Good morning. So, thank you, Lauren. So the story that went viral, you saw the story about Sholom that went viral?
Yes.
So it was a crazy story. So apparently it literally went viral. I mean, it was a little story that happened. I was taking the kids home. It wasn't a big deal. I posted on my family chat, and then I realized what a big deal it was. And it's interesting because it's literally when I was preparing for Tanya this week. Oh, good, Arlene. That sounds great. So when I was preparing for Tanya, I realized how effective Tanya is, just the awareness of what we learned about in Tanya. It's so in line with literally our day-to-day experience. So what was the story with Sholom Bear? The story was this. Sholom Bear was taking my grandchildren back from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale. And of course, as little kids always have to do, they need to go to the bathroom. And so he quickly went off to an exit. Now, just want to have you just an understanding. Nothing in the world happens by coincidence. Nothing. Hi, good morning, Gail. Good morning, Beth. Nothing ever happens by coincidence. So the fact that those kids had to use the washroom, at that moment. And the closest exit was an exit called Garden City. He makes an exit and tries to go into each bathroom. The 7-Eleven was closed. The other place was closed. The other one said, you can't come in. And finally, like, he's lost. What do I do? See, he runs into one last place, which I don't know if I didn't even speak to him. Was it a restaurant? Was it I don't know how he got into that place. But as he zooms in and sends the kids to the washroom, he bumps into a mother with 2 sons. And she tells Sholom Bear, are you here from Chabad? I can't believe you're here. Now, think about a story that's happened to our family recently, a couple of years ago as well. But this is where we talk about a machshava. We're going to talk today in Tanya about the 3 garments of a Jew. Okay, do you know what the 3 garments of a Jew is? I'm not talking about jacket, sweater, and coat. No.
No, the villain?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a hint. We've been speaking, the first 3 chapters were all about the different souls of a Jew. If you could please put down the name of the souls on the chat. What are the names of the souls? Nefesh Bahamut, good, the animal soul. That's chapter 1. Talks about the Nefesh Bahamut. What's the second soul? The Nefesh Elokit. We learn about him in the second chapter. Each one of these souls has energy. Like, how do they express themselves? They have energy. If anybody knows what those 10 energies are called, okay, they're called kochot. God has them, and they're called sfirot. That's what we learn about now during the Sfirot Omer. We call them the Eser Kochot. This is the way we express ourselves through our souls. The 3, and I want to know, guys, if you remember this, because we've discussed this for many, many weeks. The 3 intellectual powers are Chachma, Bina, and Da'at. Those spell a very, very important name in our life. Chabad. Chachma, Bina, Da'at. That's the wisdom, understanding, and Da'at is sort of the culmination of the 2, bringing it into practice. That's the intellectual. But the intellectual, it's very good if a person's intellectual, but it has to be with emotion. And that's Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. Those are the 7 sfirot. These 10 intellectual properties and these and emotions are what allow us to be a Jew. They allow us to do what we want to do. When you give charity, what are you doing? You are using Chesed. You're using kindness. That's the first one of the emotion. When you are disciplining your child, what are you doing? You're using Gvura, strength. A parent that's too much Gvura, problematic. A parent that's too much Chesed, problematic. Do you know what the middle line is? Tiferet, which is called beauty. It's the juxtaposition of both. So all of our life is learning how to use these 10 powers that Hashem gave us and aligning it with God. Making sure that our chesed, chesed could be used also for negative things. Just like the godly soul has chesed, so does the animal soul. When the animal says, your child wants to smoke pot at the age of 10, and you go, oh, I love my child. I'll do anything for my child. Is that a good chesed? No. So we have to be very cognizant every single minute of our life. Which chesed are we using? Discipline. You say, I'm a disciplined person. That person wants charity. Let them go get a job. Is that coming from godly soul or the animal soul?
Kind of for both, because you want to help them.
Yeah.
But first help them with kindness.
Oh, right. Or give them a job.
Yeah.
But to walk by and anyone that calls, we get today, and maybe you could tell me the same thing. I get today a minimum of 12 emails a day asking for money. Every organization, everyone who lost a parent, who lost a child, all day, right? And you can say, well, who are these people? I don't know them. And you just delete. It's not a Jew. A Jew has to think, okay, let me go online, see if it's responsible charity, right? Some of them are fakes. So I always click in, go to the bottom, I see which organization is sponsoring this charity. And if I see that it's a legitimate one, my chesed kicks in and gives. If I see it's a fraud, someone's collecting for something in Afghanistan, they don't know who it is, that's when my gevura steps in. But we can't always say, well, I'm not going to give charity. They have to work for their money. I work hard. They have to work hard. So it's the ability to discern which kochot we are going to live our life with. It's very interesting, Kim. And it's very interesting for all of you to realize this. Hi, good morning, Gail. Good morning, Beth. Good morning, Jody. It's very interesting for us to realize that throughout our day, both the Nefesh Elokit and the Nefesh Bahamut are trying to grasp hold of us. So throughout the day, you have to be very, very intuitive and very thoughtful and think, where is that thought coming from? Where is that need coming from? Where is that action coming from? And you can say, oh, it's overwhelming. I can't think so much. It's not overwhelming. Eventually, you begin to pick out. You become sensitive. It's like I have this thing on my phone. It says likely spam, right? You get it?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you know how to weed out spam. By doing things based on the Nefesh Elokit, you know what's coming for the Nefesh Bahamut. It becomes second nature. Oh, that, I'm not even going there. Now, that's with the Elokit and the Bahamut. But how do you recognize the soul? If it stays inside of you, that doesn't help. We have what's called the levushim. Anybody here know what levushim are? Based on Chassidus, what's the word levushim? Okay. Levushim means garments, which means not just our body has garments, right? Today I'm wearing this color, I'm not sure what color it is, but you're wearing a blue scarf. That's your external levushim. But what is your soul's levushim? Think for a second. I want everyone to think here. What are your soul's garments? If I want to know who a person is, do I just look at their clothing, their physical clothing? What really personifies a person's essence? Their clothing. What are their clothing?
Whether they're dressed modestly, or do you mean the way they carry themselves, the way they behave?
Both. So you're alluding to it. The levushim, if anybody wants to put the answer down in the chat, please do. Levushim are not just the physical clothing. Levushim, the Tanya tells us, are 3 ways of expressing ourselves. So going back to, you said modesty. The kids in my school now are learning about the different cultures in the world. They're discussing Italy, they're discussing Paris, France, they're going through Africa, right? Each culture has a different clothing. So when I walk in the street, let's say I'm walking downtown Toronto, I see someone wearing an African garb. That tells me that they are from South Africa, from Africa. If I see someone walking with a certain Italian mode, right? The clothing tells me who they are. Doesn't really tell me what kind of person they are, just tells me where they're from. What tells me what kind of person we are? Oh, Lauren says character traits. And that, Lauren, excellent answer, is machshava, dibur, and maisa. Those are the 3 garments. The first thing is their actions. Actions tells you exactly what kind of person you are. Speech, exactly what kind of person you are. But then there's thoughts. And that's only you know. Now let's talk about the action, right? If someone walks over to another person and punches them out, you know what that person is like. It's very clear. You almost don't have to think twice. People don't walk over to each other and punch each other out. That's an action that will really tell you what's going on in that person. That's a very, very visual action. Then you have words. Now, words is very, very, very important. Today, I've noticed, and I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed people using very, very unclassy words all the time. And they seemingly seem very classy. They're wearing, nice Gucci shoes, and they're carrying a fancy Prada bag. and then something happens and they start saying four-letter words, like, whoa, that doesn't seem to align with the way you look. Well, the clothing that they're wearing is clearly not reflecting their neshama. The neshama wouldn't say those words. It's interesting, right? So words reflect our inside. So the words, not only is it please and thank you, which is one step, but even more deeper are words like, and those are words I don't want to say online, but things like we don't want our children to say inappropriate words. We tell them, oh, sweetie pie. And we learn from the Rebbe. The Rebbe never said the word tameh, which means impure. The Rebbe would say, lo tahar, not pure. See the difference? So subtle, but it's so powerful. The Rebbe would say, not kosher, because he didn't want to say the word treif. The Rebbe would never say the word chazer, P-I-G. He would say an animal that isn't kosher. So you think, oh, that's so fanatic. Think about it. We don't wear clothing that has stains. We're very careful. If we have a stain, we run back into the house and change our outfit. Why aren't we thinking about the words we're using? Are they staining our neshama? So words like stupid, my kids were little. If they said those words, they suffered a consequence. Sometimes there was a little bit of soap on their tongue. And my son Levi will tell me, he remembers very clearly it was lemon soap. It was kosher, but we washed his tongue. I said, Ziskite, in our family, we don't use such words. And that one time with a little soap on his tongue, he remembered it for the rest of his life. The guy is 29 years old with a family, because we were talking, we were over Pesach and all the kids were talking, a lot of things that went on in the house. Do you remember when mommy did it? And you remember when that happened? Do you remember? And this came up.
When my kids were little, that was the S word that we didn't say.
And we're careful. Why are we careful? Because speech is one of the garments of the soul. If our soul is godly, then our speech has to reflect those words. So if a kid says something and the parents go, oh, isn't that cute? And it was an inappropriate word, it's not cute. I don't care if they're 2 years old. People will actually film their child saying these words and saying, oh, they're so funny. Well, first of all, they're mimicking what's going on at home. We have to be so careful the words we use. And those are the words they're going to grow up with. And those are going to become the clothing of the child. Who wants the child to walk around with clothing full of stains, torn, ripped, dirty schmatzes? We're so careful with the clothing. Oh, you can't go out looking like that. Did you hear what child talks? Did you hear the way your child talks? That's okay. But the clothing, so Tanya refines us. That's really the purpose of Tanya. It's refining us and making us look towards our essence so that we realize what are we, who are we, and what is being presented to the world. So one of the most important things for us to realize is that actions and language comes from somewhere. Where does it come from? It comes with the first one of the levushim, machshava. Machshava, which means thought, is the most spiritual and the most lofty, because what I think, you don't know. Only I know, and only Hashem knows. So let's talk about thoughts. Action, I can control myself, right? I can be angry at someone, but I won't hit them because I can control myself. Words, I can also. We have 2 sets of teeth. We have lips. We can. Well, what about thoughts? So let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you here. Are we in control of our thoughts? Because we know our thoughts are working like a wheel. They constantly turn. So you say absolutely.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I've heard somebody speaking badly of somebody, and I've thought, oh, gee, I wonder if it's true. And then I've thought, that's not appropriate. They're a good person. And I can change my mindset.
Oh. Do you think the person that said that, are they in control of their thoughts?
Sure, if I can do it, they can do it.
What is that called? It's called the power of your ability to change thoughts. Let me give you an example right now. We'll do a little exercise. I want everyone now to stop what they're doing and just think about a multiplication table. It could be twos, fives, tens, hundreds, okay? So for 30 seconds, I want everyone to think of multiplication. Okay, now, open your eyes. I want you to put down right here on your chat, what were you thinking about? Multiplication. That's it. I asked you in your mind. So some of you did the twos, 2, 4, 6, 8. Some did fives. Some of you maybe did tens. The brilliant one of you did, hundreds or 1,000. We all did multiplication. How did that happen? It was a thought. But you decided to change what you were thinking about and just think about multiplication, which is the proof that we are in charge. Oh, Arlene did the 9 tables. Excellent, Arlene. To prove to you that we are in charge of our thoughts. If you said to yourself, stop what I'm doing, I'm just going to think about multiplication, which means for 30 seconds, you change whatever you were thinking about, you just focus on the multiplication. The truth is, Kim, and you were absolutely right, we are in charge of our thoughts every second. And if a negative thought comes your way, you just consciously stop and change it. So we are in charge of our levushim, our machshava, our dibur, and our maisa. And even if a negative thought comes into your mind and you say, well, how do I stop that? Get involved. Open a Tehillim, get online, make a phone call your mom, call a friend, open a book, go online and learn a class. The thought is really bothering you, get involved in a video class. But get involved because you can just change. The famous story that just resonates with me is the story of the Hasidim that wanted to see how it's possible to change thoughts. So they went to visit their Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to them, go visit my Chassid Reb Zev. They travel to his place, they come to his house before Shabbos, knock on the door, they want to come for Shabbos. No answer, no answer, no answer. Shabbos is arriving and there's no answer. So they figure they have to spend Shabbos in Shul. So they take their peklach, they go to Shul, make a bed in Shul. Poor guys, they're stuck in Shul for Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos, they come back to his house, they knock on his door again. And this time he opens the door. They said to him, Rezev, we were here a whole Shabbos. Why didn't you open the door? We came specially, our Rebbe sent us to you. He goes, why did your Rebbe send you? Because he came because we don't understand how it's possible to control your thoughts. He goes, you see the answer. Well, what's the answer? When the thought comes knocking on your door, don't answer. So simple. You knocked on my door on Friday, I didn't let you in. Don't let your thought in. And that's all we have to know. I think the moment we know we have the power, that's the moment we act on that power. Because we don't know raising our children or growing up ourselves, we assume that thought is a very spiritual matter. It's not something I can handle, right? My hand I can close, my mouth I can close. Thoughts I'm not in control of. So we assume whatever thought comes into my mind, whether you said you heard something negative about a person and you dismissed it, or anxiety or stress or worry or hate or anger, any of those negative traits, it comes into our mind and we suddenly get submerged into this reality. And sometimes a half hour later, we're literally sweating because it became such a reality. Guess what? In 1 second, we can dismiss that negative feeling, that negative thought.
Well, you can wake up from a really bad dream and be scared or angry or sad, and you wake up and you go, oh, it was a dream.
Oh, Kim, I love that analogy. I'm actually going to write it down because if we think of all our thoughts as just a fleeting dream, that it's not a reality, then you just go, oh, that's just a thought. And you get on with your day. No one stresses a whole day about a dream they had. You don't, unless it's really horrendous and you go to a Rav and the Rav helps you with that but normally we wake up and we go, oh, that was a bad dream. And thank God it was just a dream. That's how we have to look at a thought. So when you think that what you think about does not have to be something that overwhelms you and takes you over. But this is the key now. Tanya discusses this. How do we ensure that what the thoughts that enter our mind, how do we ensure that they are positive, appropriate, kind, nice thoughts? I'm going to throw out that question now. I'm going to leave it up to you now, all of you watching, put it online. And Kim, how do you think you can ensure that the thought, and I'll tell you why I'm asking the question. You see, a tzaddik has complete 10 kochot. His chachma bina dat, his chesed, his virtues, they're all aligned with God. As a result, his levushim are always perfect, right? Because levushim reflect your 10 powers. If your 10 powers are from like regular people, there's going to be a lot of negative stuff that's going to pop out. That's who we are. A tzaddik is born with 10 perfect kochot. So, of course, his levushim are what? Perfect. His chachma, his thoughts, his bina, his machshava, his thoughts, his dibur, his speech, his action is always perfect. But big deal. He was born that way, right? So, what's such a wow?
You can change.
A tzaddik is born that way. He will never change. He doesn't have a nefesh, a bahamas. He only has a get. But what about us? We are constantly in turmoil. We're constantly in friction with these two souls. Because every day, like we learned about in chapter Aleph, every day these two souls are fighting. Who's going to be in control of Goldie today? Who's going to be in control of Kim today? And there's going to be a million opportunities, right? How do we ensure that our machshava will be positive?
The more good we do and think, it becomes a habit. Kill it with kindness.
Okay, so on that, and I'll piggyback on that excellent piece. Arlene says, the thoughts will make me smile and happy. Good thoughts. Okay, so what happens is this.
Stay off social media.
Stay off social media, except to join classes. When you want to make a certain smoothie, let's say, your kids love banana strawberry smoothie. What ingredients will you put in?
Banana, strawberry,
milk or something, right? What you put in is what you get out. If you put in banana and strawberry and out comes spinach, would you be surprised?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like, if whatever you put in, you get out. If I didn't put in spinach, well, I'm expecting a spinach smoothie. The same thing is with the way it was with our mind. And you alluded to it when you said, stay off social media. If we are on social media or we're reading certain things or we watch certain shows that are not appropriate or bring out bad thoughts or negative thoughts, what we put in is what our machshava is going to get out. Doesn't have a choice. You gave strawberry banana, you got out strawberry banana. You put in, I was speaking Nebuch to a mother yesterday who was challenged with a 14-year-old girl. And the 14-year-old girl, and the mother gave the child a phone because all the friends have the phone, but she took off the browser, which she thought she shut off the internet. The child figured a way out and admitted to her mother she'd been watching porn. 14-year-old. It's amazing that this kid admitted to her mother. I thought that's a very, very, I said to the mother, look at that. The child is saying to you, I've just been poisoned. Mom, help me. The mother is saying to me, oh my gosh, what do I do now? So I'm not going to go over the conversation. I spent an hour with her. But the point is, this little child now has porn in her mind. Whatever you put in, that's your new going to feed your machshava. So how careful we have to be to allow our children to have this technology. And I know everyone here is going to say, well, what do you do? All the kids' friends have. I'll tell you what my sister did. Her child goes to school. Good morning, Ruti. Her child goes to school in a Chabad school in Muncie. And the kids were becoming 13 years old and they all wanted phones. The mothers had a meeting and each one decided they're not giving a phone. So none of the kids in the class got a phone that year. If one kid said, it's not fair, so-and-so has a phone, the mother goes, no, she doesn't have a phone. Every mother made a promise. No one's having a phone. So usually the kids will want a phone because their friends have phones. I can't be the only one that doesn't have social media. What's with me? So each mother made a pact. Then this went on to the next year. 14 years old. There isn't a kid today that doesn't have a phone at 14. The mothers continued the pact. They said, do our children need phones? We will manage without phones. We were healthy. If the social pressure is gone, my child doesn't need a phone. And they continued this on until the children were 16, at which point they were given phones, but flip phones, but none of the kids have internet. What are the parents doing? They are giving the children those beautiful, healthy upbringing. Because what we're doing when we're giving our children social media is we're not really empowering them. We're showing them everything in the world and saying, don't touch, don't look, don't go. We're putting so many stumbling blocks in front of them. We are really giving them a hard time. We're setting them up for failure. If we really, really loved our children, we would say to them, you know what? This stove is hot. Over here, there's a big hill. I'm putting a fence. I'm protecting our children. For the real world, there's plenty of time to get to the schmutz from social media. Your child will be a much healthier adult and get better marriage opportunities if they don't get into every porn. Studies have shown that children and adults that have been involved in that suffer a lot in their relationships because they've been exposed to too much stuff that you don't need. Just like we lock our doors when a couple is intimate, they don't invite their children in, but we're letting them have social media and we're letting them into other people's bedrooms. What are we thinking? Women, got to get hold of your families. We've got to get back in line with our children and showing them what's right. Their machshava diva ma'aser, which is going to be their garments. We have to protect them and give them beautiful garments. None of you would ever allow your child to walk out with dirty clothing full of coffee and bananas and meat stains. You would be horrified. But are we horrified when they go out with a phone or things they've seen or things they've read? Are we horrified? Oh, that we can't see because it's in their machshava. But it's going to come out. It's going to come out. It's going to be their new levushim. So we have to, as mothers, be careful. Now let's go back to Sholom Bear's story. So Sholom Bear comes to this place where he's sending my grandchildren to the bathroom. Little does he know there's a woman there with 2 sons. And she stops my son. And she says to him, oh my gosh, are you Chabad? She goes, my son goes, yes, yes. And right away, Sholom Bear always carries tefillin with him. He says, can I put on your son's tefillin? She goes, wait, let me tell you what just happened. She was sitting in the car with her children. She's going through a very, very challenging time. Her husband was very unwell since COVID. And her and her children are struggling with life right now. And she said to them, it's time to reset. These are the words she used. It's time to reset. Also recalibrating, right? And she says, she made a prayer to God. God, give me some connection, some feeling, something, a sign. And then there is Sholom Bear in this gas station using a bathroom because 7-Eleven was closed. Oh, coincidence. The other gas station closed. No coincidence. Hashem sent a Chabad boy with his tefillin so that this mother can connect to realize, you know what? I think I need God in my life. And she will, Emet Hashem, connect with the shliach in that community because Florida has every exit has another shliach. My friends, today's class gives us one message. Whatever we put in is what we bring out. We want to be refined. We want to talk refined. We want to think and act refined. Then the bananas and the strawberries that goes in, make sure what goes in properly is kosher because that's what comes out. So next week we'll continue chapter 4. Have a great day.